This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC Vegas 82. I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week, my most confident picks on the card, my favorite underdogs. We'll talk props slash value bets and then finish it out with the parlays. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and make sure to share the video as well. Last week, the unbeaten lock streak came to a halt. Unfortunately, Sergey Pavlovich was knocked out in 1:09 against Tom Aspinall, now interim champion, and my 9-0-1 record became 9-1-1. The week prior, we had a draw with Rinat Fakhretdinov, which halted the 9-week win streak. It was then a 10-week unbeaten streak. The 11th week, trying to snap things back in the right direction. I think it was just cursed to go that way because of the week before being a draw. It is what it is, though. I'll dust myself off and get back to work with a new lock streak income, and especially that my birthday was Sunday. I feel mentally reset, and I feel ready to bring more heat this week for UFC Vegas 82. So without further ado, the lock of the week.
Here is Jose Lobo Solitario Johnson.
Jose Johnson, lock of the week over Chad Anheliger. I actually love this matchup for him, and big reason is the substantial height and reach advantage and the fact that I think Johnson is the better technical kickboxer, the faster guy, the better athlete, and I think the better fighter overall too. And Helliger's a tough out, and he's a fun to watch Canadian fighter who comes and throws heavy punches, and he does have okay grappling, but I can't see him holding down Jose Johnson for 3 rounds. Johnson line right now for him sitting around -175 as my lock of the week. I think I got a fantastic one here. Looking at the difference in the physicality with the height and reach, like that in itself is a massive factor. And then you give fairly close lines at -175. I was sold right away. That's why I went with this as the lock. Jose Johnson, 6 foot. Chad Anheliger, 5'6", 71.5-inch reach, 64-inch reach. I think Johnson's going to get a win in his fight here by a decision. I don't think it's an easy matchup with Anheliger because he is durable, eats big shots, and is willing to keep coming forward after taking some bombs. But nonetheless, I think Johnson's skill set is going to be far superior to the much shorter opponent here. I think we're also going over a round and a half at -240. I think decision is the most likely method of victory. That's what I'm going to call. Don't love the decision prop, which sits at around +185. It's possible, but Johnson does have the length and athleticism where he could put Anheliger's lights out. That's not impossible in this bout. I think there's a fair chance of it. It's just not huge because Anheliger notoriously durable, and I think that's a factor. That's why I have it going long. I'm going Johnson for the win. -175 is the lock of the week tag. I think we're very live here to get that streak back in the green zone starting this week with Jose Johnson. He is the lock of the week. And I like the stylistic matchup. I think he can outstrike Anheliger, keep this fight standing, and I think even potentially surprise Anheliger in the grappling exchanges. Now, if Johnson was to get a KO, I'll also read that prop off for you guys. The prop for that is +250 for a Johnson knockout, which, like I said, not impossible feat, but Anheliger as a professional has never been knocked out before. So I'm going to lean towards the decision side. Maybe some of you like the length of Johnson for submission. I'll read that off too to finish out the lock section. Submission line, what are we at? +600 Johnson by sub. Just because of his length, that could be a factor. He's got only 2 wins by sub though. But that's a huge line. +600 for sub for Johnson. This wasn't something I was, prepared to unleash beforehand, the +600, but it came to me as I'm talking about it. That's not crazy as like more of a Hail Mary prop, but the money line is the lock. -175, Jose Johnson, lock of the week to get me back on track. I'm ready to get smooth sailing once again. Let's jump to the most confident pick section. I'm going to run through them. Now, I'm going to bring them all up on screen right now. You guys can see them. We'll, debrief each one of them more in detail, but first I want to read them off. We got Peyton Talbot at minus 700. Yeah, the line sucks, but he's going to win the fight. We have Christian Leroy Duncan in a new matchup against short notice replacement Dennis Tulalin. I like his chances a ton here, especially short notice Dennis Tulalin. And then we have Mick Parkin, minus 330. Big favorite, but taking on a Brazilian that I see him knocking out in Kyle Machado. And then we also have Eileen Perez in a ladies fight where I think she has a big edge in the grappling, and I also think she's the more vicious striker and should get the win. But let's talk about first the Peyton Talbot fight. So Talbot is fighting, Nick Aguirre, who lost his debut pretty convincingly, and against Dan Argueta, who's a grappler. Peyton Talbot is more so striking. I mean, he has a very slick stand-up game, and he does have knockout power in his hands. I do think he's going to get the knockout. It's minus 210 for that. This is a high-confident pick that I wanted to include because of the confidence, but the line sucks here, and I want to actually talk a bit about what I think. I believe that this type of overinflated line is stupid. This line should not be this wide, but I really see Talbot getting the KO on the feet. So I guess I had to include him in this section due to the confidence, but nobody's money lining Peyton Talbot. He's definitely more of like a really large parlay extension. You're not going to get much if you put him with one other fighter in it. We'll talk parlays at the end. We'll see what we can do with Talbot. He's a wide favorite at minus 700. I do think there's a chance that this fight is going that under 2.5 at minus 122. Knockout prop minus 210. There's not a lot of great bets on this one, but I do think Talbot has a live chance to knock out Nick on the feet. I think he's going to KO him. Knockout in the first round is plus 220. I can see it in the first two, plus 325 for the second. Don't go chasing the props here. This, unfortunately, is a high confidence pick that the bookies are all over because they're confident that it's going to happen too. Next one, we got Christian Leroy Duncan, who's minus 400. Now, unfortunately, at the time of this recording, we do not have props unloaded for this fight yet because it was just put together, I believe, earlier today. I think that Christian Leroy Duncan has a real chance to cleanly outstrike Dennis Tulalin, and I think a minus 400 line is actually going to continue to get larger and larger. It opened up at minus 350. I could see it swelling to minus 500. Tulalin taking the fight on short notice, and then also the fact that he's fairly one-dimensional with like a pressure stand-up style. He does hit hard. He closes the gap well and rips shots nicely, but definitely Leroy Duncan is the better MMA fighter with way more tools and I think the better striking game technically. So I'm going Leroy Duncan as a high confidence pick. Yes, it's minus 400, but he's going to win the fight. Little better than Talbot. Next one, Mick Parkin, minus 330. I feel as though he's going to end up knocking Kyle Machado out. We have Aspinall just winning the interim belt. Parkin, a training partner of Aspinall. We know that Mick Parkin has a pretty smooth stand-up game. Yeah, his last fight in the UFC, I'll be honest, it wasn't like the most impressive W, but he cleanly outworked Jamal Pogues for 3 rounds. And Pogues is actually like decently athletic. I think Machado is a lot less athletic. I think Parkin can find big punches and end up getting a KO. So I'm going for the side of a KO for Parkin, and looking at the line for KO, you got plus 160 money for a knockout. I just feel like Machado's getting caught and flattened here. Machado, what has he got? 2 fights against Lee Mean, who's like 53. And that's like in his past 5. Yeah, he won against Shaflarsky on Contender Series, but like Shaflarsky looked like a horribly watered down version of Marcin Tybura. So I think that the side of Parkin is live to outwork Machado, outstrike him, and knock him unconscious. And then Eileen Perez. Minus 185 Eileen Perez. I like this tag a lot. This is a lot more playable down the money line. Plus 650 sub. Plus 600 KO. I wanted to bring up 2 wider margin lines. Yes, there is a real chance that we're going the over in this ladies fight with Perez, controlling a lot of the fight, getting to top position, ground and pounding a bit, landing punches on the feet. There is also a possibility she submits the side of Lucy Pudilova, and the submission line for Perez is plus 650, KO line plus 600. I think I'd lean towards the sub a little more, but there's a chance of ground and pound. But in the plus 600 range for 2 props for her getting it done inside of the distance, which I think is a possibility, not saying it's a guarantee. I think Perez is live to win a dominant decision. but you wouldn't be crazy to throw down at plus 650 for a submission prop or plus 600 for a knockout prop for Eileen Perez, who's a minus 185 favorite that I think is going to run over Lucy Pudilova. She's got way higher ceiling. She's way more physical. She hits harder. She's more vicious on the ground. I think she's just the better fighter overall and the better athlete. So give me minus 185. High confidence call on this ladies fight. Eileen Perez over Lucy Pudilova. That is the most confident pick section. I want to jump to the favorite underdog section. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe. Favorite dogs, I'm going to put 4 of them up on screen right now. We'll run through them, and then we'll go more in detail. First and foremost, we'll talk. We got what? Trey Ogden at the top, plus 110. We got Jordan Leavitt, plus 170, even though I'm hearing that he's threatening to pull out of the fight if his wife goes into labor. If he does that, there's a real chance the UFC would be willing to release him for that. I think that even though I get it, you want to be there for the childbirth, you shouldn't have accepted a fight in a featured bout of the night on a UFC card if you have a, child that's due around the date of the fight and you're that concerned where you would pull out. You're not willing to miss it and still fight. So that was very weird when I heard that. Not a good look for Jordan Leavitt, who a lot of people like as a dog. Paul Craig, plus 350. I love me some Paul Craig. I think Paul Craig's got a great chance to win this fight at plus 350, and they're all sleeping on him. And Uros Medic, who's taking on a new fighter, Maitabek Orebai, who I think is good, and I'll go more in detail about this one as we talk about the matchup. But how can I go against Medic at plus money against a debuting guy who's unproven at the UFC level? Nonetheless, first, Trey Ogden. I have him to win. I'm picking decision. Decision is plus 300. It's plus 110 for Ogden straight on the money line. I feel like Nicholas Mota has the first round stopping power chance, but as we get into the second and third round, Ogden will be calculated with his pace. I think he can touch Mota up. I'm not overly sold on Mota's explosiveness and power. Besides it looking good when he can land, the actual accuracy with his strikes is not all that high. His technical skill is not all that high. Trey Ogden went out there and out kickboxed Daniel Zellhuber. He went rounds with Ignacio Bahamondes. He's an experienced MMA veteran. I think Mota is a powerful guy, but how can he lay him out? He's got to land perfect. Ogden has never been knocked out as a pro. He's got, I would say, a pretty durable reputation, and he's taken on a guy who's limited in Ogden. Now, limited in Mota. Now, with Ogden, though, plus 300 for decision because he's not this crazy knockout artist. But if Ogden was to get a KO against a fairly chinny Mota, it's worth mentioning. Plus 950 for an Ogden KO. And Mota has been knocked out a fair amount of times in the UFC and on the regional scene. So something to consider there is a plus 950 knockout prop. Like we saw last week. Yeah. Who got knocked out? Mark Madsen. Not like Jared Gordon's known for the KO, but he dropped hammers. Jamal Emmer's got a knockout. Not that he's known for the KO, but he put Bazooka out. It's not impossible. Just because they haven't got knockouts doesn't mean he can't. And Ogden by KO against a chinny Mota at plus 950, sniper Hail Mary in my opinion. Jordan Leavitt, plus 170 for Jordan Leavitt. Weird fight, to be honest with you here. I'm picking Leavitt, but like he could definitely drop the bag and lose. I don't love betting the house on him type situation, but to bet him at plus money makes more sense to me than throwing down a minus 200 for Chase Hooper. How does this fight end? I think there's a chance Leavitt takes it on the cards. Plus 400 for decision. I don't like the prop. Leavitt could pull off a knockout plus 1100, but I don't think the odds are great. He's not like super dangerous with his physicality, nor is Hooper. And then to submit Hooper would be crazy. That's plus 550. I think Leavitt probably gets a competitive decision at plus 170. He's a decent dog, but like, is that the dog that you want to be back and everything? I'm picking it. I'm telling you guys, he's a dog that I'm riding with. I think he can win. But if he goes out there and lose and I backed him with a ton of cash, I'd say to myself, fuck, why did I back the guy who's twerking after fights? He's not an athletic guy. He's not a powerful puncher. He got a nice knockout in his last fight, but against a fighter, let's be honest, who didn't seem deserving of a UFC fight. Chase Hooper, tough vet. Tough young vet, I should say. Tough prospect, but he's a vet nonetheless. I'm going to pick Leavitt. I think he can win a decision here, but like I'm not crazy about throwing down everything at Jordan Leavitt. Like, come on. Let's be honest here. So if you want to do it, ride with it, plus 170. Like, be intelligent about it. It's Jordan Leavitt. But then on the opposite side, it's Chase Hooper on the other side. So we're going to find out. That's, that's a pick. It's a potential dog play, but it's like not what I love here. Paul Craig at plus 350. Call me crazy. I think he's going to strangle Brendan Allen or at least sub him in some fashion. Plus 500 for sub. I think that Craig is very live throughout the whole fight, but especially in the later rounds. I'm not sold on Brendan Allen's game against a tricky guy like Paul Craig. I think he's being completely overlooked by the bookies. I think that Paul Craig by submission is extremely live here, plus 500 for the sub. Craig to win in round 3 is plus 1,800. Craig round 4, plus 2,500. Like you're chasing at that point. Craig to win in rounds 3 to 4, plus 1,900. That's something I'd consider sprinkling, but note that it's not crazy if he gets it done in the first or second round. Paul Craig, plus 350. I do believe that he's going to win the fight. And I think he's going to end up getting a submission win as well. I see him locking it up on Brendan Allen. Even though Allen's got good jits, I'm not sold on Brendan Allen being able to outwork him for 3 rounds. The Jacob Malhoun fight is always in my mind. And I think Paul Craig is going to surprise people. Because the plus 350 tag, in my opinion, is delusion for Paul Craig. I know Allen's looked good lately. I know he's the younger guy. But we got a Paul Craig that still submitted Nikita Krylov, Jamal Hill, and Magomed Ankalaev. Let's not forget the royalty that he's taken out. Good fighters. Allen, not saying he isn't good. But I think that Paul Craig can win this one. So I like Paul as a dog a lot, plus 350. And then Yoros Medic. So plus 130 for Medic against Oribay, who is not an easy fight. If I'm saying his name wrong, I apologize. I listened to it before doing this video, but some of these names, man, they take a while to sink in your brain. Oribay, yeah, Oribay. Maitebek Oribay. So something about Oribay I noticed is that he does have pretty dangerous stand-up and a strong grappling base. Team Alpha Male, as well as training in Kyrgyzstan. He's associated with Team Alpha Male, though, so he's got wrestling. But 5'10 to 6'1, Yoros Medic. No UFC experience. Last fight was a win 2 weeks ago over Hayward Charles. He's 18-14. And then beat a guy, Glacio Lerzari, 10-7. Went distance on a win against Jalen Fuller, who was 6-1. And then beat a debuting guy and then a 5-3-2 guy before that. So with Oribay, he looks good on paper and seems to have some potential. But I think Yoros Medic is a very good striker. He's filled out nicely at 170, and he's also been preparing for this date. Now, I know Oribay is coming off a recent fight, so he's not far out of shape, we can say. But nonetheless, I have to ride with Medic to beat the debuting guy. I got to go with the UFC savvy experience in this matchup. I'm going to go with Medic to get the win over the short notice replacement. And he's plus money, plus 130. I think he's a very live underdog. I was confidently picking Yoros Medic over Johnny Parsons. I was literally this close to calling Yoros Medic a lock this week. But I said to myself, I don't know why I'm going Johnson. Something in my gut. And then what happens? The fight gets flipped. Medic ends up losing Parsons as an opponent, and he gets replaced here. So it actually worked out that the lock of the week went down as it should have, with Johnson instead of Medic. But I do think Medic is live to beat Oribay. He's an underdog that I am picking. I'm going to ride with the side of UFC veteran status. I'm going with my guy, Yoros Medic, in this fight. Those are my favorite underdogs on the card. I do want to talk about prop/value bets, and then we'll finish it out with the parlays as always. So let's check this out. All right. Prop/value bets time. I have a couple written down. Johnson, Estevam, over 2.5 rounds. That sits at minus 225. I do think we're going long here. Johnson is not easy to finish. Estevam's going to be consistently trying to grapple. I'm picking Estevam to win by a decision. Decision win for Estevam, just out of curiosity for the people, plus 150, and he's a minus 150 money line favorite. But the over 2.5 is for the prop section. And then also on the prop section, next one is Lucas Alexander by knockout over Jeka Sadeghi, minus 510, crazy wide line. Lucas Alexander was very close to being included in the most confident pick section. I would say that he would probably be like close to that 5th place, and he'd be like an honorable mention in it, but nobody's money lining him at minus 510. So it made sense to leave him out of it too. But nonetheless, yeah, I got Talbot, who's a wide favorite in there as well. This one here, it would be more of a parlay piece if you threw down at minus 510. Alexander should win. Just KO -110. I am predicting that he can knock out the side of Jeka Sadegi in this fight here. Sadegi is dropping down a weight class from 155, and he is known for his stand-up game. But nonetheless, I think that it's potentially risky bout for him. Also like the side of Jonathan Pierce -126. I think he's live to win as a slight favorite. And then Michael Morales, who I left out. You might be wondering why. Little hesitancy on the prospects, man, especially after the Bone Fiend fight. We're looking at -320 over a +270 Jake Matthews from Michael Morales, where I feel like there's still some technical deficiencies, though he's a great athlete. I think he could get a knockout. I'll just read off the knockout, but this is like an extension to the section, only +135. I'd rather sit, watch, and learn about Michael Morales and maybe make a calculated bet later on than trying to cash with him now, especially at -320. Maybe a parlay piece, though. I could see people doing it. He definitely could explode on Jake Matthews, and I definitely am predicting him to win the fight. Now, I'm not done just yet. I still got the parlay section to do, but I'm going to bring myself in big screen just for a second as I get the parlay screen on the slate here. I got to get it set up nicely. I got to make it look good for my people. All right. Let's bring it up. Parlay section is here. So, you guys know my high confidence picks. You guys know my lock of the week. So we can do things where we include the lock of the week, like a Jose Johnson with a Mick Parkin. Now I'm at -100. I'm happy with that. I guess -103, +100, we'd call it. But I think this is quite live. I think that then you add a little more to it. Like what happens with Talbot? I still get +128, and he probably wins. I mean, it's kind of being cheap, though. It's kind of being lazy, right? Eileen Perez, now I got +200. Now I got something to get a little bit of excitement. You know what I'm saying? I feel a little bit of some type of way about it. Now, let's see. Do we have Leroy Duncan here? Where's Leroy Duncan at? This is the issue, though, with best fight odds as opposed to fight odds. Best fight odds tends to be a lot more delayed on when they drop the odds for recently announced fights, and they also could be in like the total wrong position. So I got to scroll down like a damn moron over here. Damn, how are they not going to have it? Well, I also think that Leroy Duncan wins. You have him there at -150, but that's not the tag that he's fighting at. So let me just search a -400 tag so we can get the calculation approximately. +277. That Zhang Weili is not me putting Zhang Weili in. It's me putting the side of Christian Leroy Duncan, which is +277. That's a 4-fighter play. Johnson, Parkin, Perez, Duncan. Who else am I missing here? Talbot. I guess Talbot would be the missing addition, just to add in all the highest of confidence calls. Who's a big favorite that drops the ball? Because it's always possible, man. I guess that's why I kept Lucas Alexander out. Maybe it's him. +335. I think that's solid, actually. I think that's a decent look. Obviously, the Zhang Weili is Christian Leroy Duncan. It's not Zhang Weili. But remember that. +335 for the most confident picks with the lock of the week, which I definitely think is something that could work. It's definitely something that could work for the people. Now, if you want to go a little more on the wild side, you want to get yourself a plus money tag. You want to attack, some value. You want to get some value on your lineup. Well, if we had Euros Medic here, if we could get every line here, that'd be great. But for now, we'll use Charles Johnson for the calculation. But this is Euros Medic. I'm not saying include Charles Johnson. So if you're watching this, and for some that are going to listen without audio or something, that is looking at the screen, you're going to be mistaken. You're going to be strongly mistaken. Mick Parkin. Do we go the three-peat, the absolute savage mode? Paul Craig, Mick Parkin, Euros Medic, +1,204. That's fucking wild territory, but I definitely think it could happen. Lucas Alexander on a lineup with Mick Parkin and Jose Johnson. Keep it prelim, +142. Also could be a heavy hitter. Right there, you add in the side of Eileen Perez. Now you got +270 for that. It's making it annoying that I got to search for these different numbers. But no, Leroy Duncan, Okay, Yoros Medic, two potential parlay pieces that I like, maybe even putting them together. Let's see what Talbot what we get. Plus 327 with that one. But it's all just big favorites. I hate that. I hate seeing all big faves. I guess I got to put Ogden in my lineup. I don't know why I've left Ogden out. I meant to do the one with Ogden first. All right, let's go Trey Ogden here at plus 115, who I think is a very good underdog. Let's go Jose Johnson, plus 228 for that one. I think that's very live. Plus 325 if you add Lynn Parkin. And then who else do we got here? Let me see. I'm looking at my dogs I got on screen. I just don't want to put Leavitt in it. Shows that my confidence for Leavitt's on a lower end, especially what he said about potentially pulling out if his kid's on the way. Plus 1377. Then let me actually get the minus 400. We'll use Amasov. Plus 1746 if you threw in Christian Leroy Duncan. That's big plus money. I think that's big possibility as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody after the weigh-ins so I can get like a more in-depth parlay look of how the guys taking on short notice are looking. And I'm very interested. But those are the parlays that I have ideas for. You guys know. Mix and match with the high confidence picks. Mix and match with the favorite underdogs and the lock of the week. Concoct something that you see. But definitely the post weigh-in parlay, which I'll be dropping Friday, is something to keep your eyes peeled for. So tune into that weigh-in recap show. Tomorrow, the late night live, which I'll be doing, I believe it's 7:30 Eastern time tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for that notification. Much love to my people. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and share the video too. I appreciate you all. Smash the likes and let me know in the comments. What do you think? What is the lock of the week for you? Do you like my lock of the week? If you got nothing to say in the comments, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. I know that I said smash the likes twice. I had to re-emphasize, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate you all. Much love. Content every day. So keep the post notifications turned on, not just on personalized, put them on all so you don't miss a video. Let's get the lock streak moving again. Let's go. We're getting double digits in a winning streak, not just a double-digit unbeaten streak this time. So keep your eyes peeled for it. Don't miss this week's best MMA bets every Wednesday when we have UFC fights. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.